Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone. It's a very exciting day to be on the show because I'm here with the founder and CEO of SelfScore, Kalpesh Kapadia. Kalpesh, thank you for being here.
Nice to be here, Jenna.
I'd love to kick off with an introduction to SelfScore and the enormous need that your team is fulfilling for international students.
Yeah, so, I was an international student, and many members of my family were international students who came here to study and make their life better in America. And we want to serve this underserved population with their financial needs. Uh, and that is sort of the genesis of the founding of the company. There are underserved population that are being disadvantaged by current credit system, and we want to change that. If you look at what the traditional credit system is a FICO score based system in America, and it's sort of backward looking, and it does not measure forward looking things. Uh, it's sort of a 5 point metric of your credit payment history, and it was invented, in 20th century, before internet, before computers, PCs were invented, before smartphone revolution, before social media, and many young people are disadvantaged by the current system, including Americans. Uh, Given that I just read a statistic that 58% of uh, population in age 18 to 28 does not have a single credit card. So they haven't been able to build the credit history that they would need to buy a house or buy a car. And it's besides the point that many of these purchases are being deferred or even not made for millennials. People are not buying cars; they're doing Ubering everywhere. People are renting, so it's sort of a rental economy, if you will, not owning homes. So there's a big problem and a void in current credit system, and we want to measure potential, not just risk of an individual. And we start with this population of students who come here from overseas, and they have a clean slate, if you will. They are a new to country, new to credit population, and if you look at their accomplishment, they've been through rigorous academic test and GPA. They've been through uh, rigorous financial vetting, if you will, by universities and US embassies overseas. And yet, when they come here and they have a big digital footprint, if you will, they all carry smartphones everywhere in the world now. They all have one or two social media identities. And when they get here, they are sort of credit invisible. They don't exist in the system because they do not have a social security number. So if you don't have that 9-digit number, you do not exist to the system. And you have traveled 10, 12, 15,000 miles away to study. It just goes to show how motivated you are to make your life better, right? And you've been through a life of a high achievement, if you will, and you want to be treated fairly by the system. So we want to change that. We want to level play the field. Universities in America don't differentiate if a student is from China or India or South Korea or Saudi Arabia or Brazil or London, right? They all sit in the same classroom. They all study the same coursework. Whereas financial services companies and banks grossly differentiate between the two populations. They're all studying the same subject. They're all going to get similar jobs, right? Why should they be treated any differently because they don't have that number, if you will?
And for those who don't know, Kalpesh, what is the process like without SelfScore before we dive into your solution? What's the process like of an international student getting a credit card or trying to get a credit card? And how does not being able to obtain one influence them?
Yeah, so, you know, if you do not have a social security number, you cannot get a card, an unsecured credit card. That what I mean by that is that you're not required to put up a security deposit. So the process for students when they come here and they don't have a social security number, they are offered, uh, excuse me, they are offered a inferior product in the sense that they are offered a secure credit card or a debit card by a bank. Now, debit cards do not help you build credit history. They are not as secure as credit card. They're not insured, so money goes straight out of your bank account, and you don't have much of a recourse, right? Uh, and with credit card, you are insured of any every purchase. So you're offered a debit card, which is your money, you're spending it every day. It doesn't help you build credit history, or you are offered a secure credit card, which is you put up $1,000 deposit, they will give you $1,000 credit limit, right? So those are the two options available to them, uh, and we are offering them three things. We are offering them a unsecured credit card, so we say we trust you, you deserve it, and you're underserved, so we're going to offer you this product. It helps you build credit history. We have a big credit education component on our website, so we want to build right financial habits. If you're going to establish your life in this country, you want to start out on a right footing. So we want to help you build that credit history that will help you eventually get better products and better rates. And I have heard, there's this research from Bifico that a 100-point difference in credit score can amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars in higher interest cost over the lifetime.
Wow.
So how important it is. So we want to get them started on that journey, if you will.
And what's the process like if I'm an international student and I'm coming to SelfScore? How does it work for me?
It's very simple. You come to our website, or you find us on Facebook, or Google search, and you hit apply now. It's 8 questions, and primarily it's sort of identity related questions: name, phone number, email address, physical address, college, major. And when you say, when you answer these questions, you're sort of pre-qualified based on the information you entered, and you are asked to upload 4 documents, and they are documents required regulatory wise in order to establish your identity. So it's a passport and a visa in lieu of social security number. So you and I can enter a social security number, and they'll ping credit bureau, and they will get all the history, all the information about us. Whereas these students don't have that. So they have to submit a passport, visa, and a form called I-20, and one bank statement, just first page of your bank statement. So you can take a picture of these 4 documents. So we tell you before you start the application that you would need these 4 documents in order to complete your application. So you answer 8 questions, take pictures of 4 documents, and we do a lot of checks at the back end to determine if their documents are authentic, who you say you are, you live where you say you live, your phone number and email address is correct, and you have the means to support yourself and make the payments on your credit card. That's it, and you get approved.
You've mentioned before, Kalpesh, that international students are where you guys are starting at SelfScore. Can you tell us a little bit about your long-term vision and what some of your big picture goals are?
Yeah, so we are starting with this underserved population, which I describe as new to country, new to credit. And if you just look at adjacent population, people come here to study, people come here to work. Anyone who has a higher education these days is a global citizen, in my opinion. So companies from China and India and Europe and Latin America and Asia, Japan, they all deploy people all over the world to do business. So you start with the student population, but the same problem exists for people who come here to work. So that's a slightly bigger slice than 1.5 million students, right? And then you look at people with similar markers, if you will, similar characteristic in the US population, which are disadvantaged, as I mentioned earlier. So you start with a strong niche that is a need that is not fulfilled. It's a pain in the market. And then you expand slowly to other areas that are adjacent and similar, and you grow that way. And my long-term vision is, I sort of call banking as becoming a utility or a back end, if you will. So much like if you look at the Netflix model, how did Netflix evolve? It was sort of a DVD mailing service competing with storefront in Blockbuster. Compare that to branch network that these banks have all over the country, and they pride themselves in having a street corner branch, right? Just like Blockbuster did with stores all over the country. And if you ask a young person, you're a young person, I have friends, when was the last time you walked into a bank branch? Probably not, never. Some of these people
I
deposit a
don't think
check
so.
by taking a picture, they transfer cash on the phone. So your phone is your bank, if you will, right?
100%. My friends and I, when we go into a bank, I think I've been under 5 times. You kind of stand there and you're like, well,
So,
what do you need from me?
so these banks who pride themselves in having a physical branch infrastructure are going to become like Blockbuster, build the albatross around their neck, if you will. Then fast forward 10 years, Netflix competing in a space where you have giants like Verizon and Comcast and AT&T that own the pipes, right? And you have studios like Disney and Fox and Time Warner. They own the content, right? And you have competitors like Apple, YouTube, Amazon, Hulu. They're all deep pocketed large companies that are competing to get the content from studios. And even in that competitive environment, Netflix won for one simple reason, because they had a superior user experience. They were always on the side of the consumer. You could cancel your Netflix account with one click. You could restart with one click. You could use it anywhere. It's $7.99 a month or $9.99 a month, depending on the time. It's a very low price to enter, right? And they are delighting customers with the service that they have. So the front end is quite important, and the innovation in banking is going to happen on front end. And banks are going to become like Comcast and Verizon and AT&T. They will be in the business of selling pipes to move money around the world. So they have the backend infrastructure. The only difference remains is that they have an advantage in low cost deposit. So people put their money in the bank so they can lend it out at higher interest rate, right? So they have a spread, which is called the interest margin, the net interest margin. So the advantage they have is that they hold money for people, but that advantage is also diminishing day by day. So you look at the four pillars, if you will. You have asset management or deposits. You have remittances from all over the country, wires and ACH and overseas remittances, right? You have payments and you have lending. So innovation is happening on all four fronts that are making banks less and less relevant. And if I were a Wells Fargo, should be worried that I have these thousands of branches. What are we going to do with keeping those branches alive? You don't want to become Blockbuster. So that's my sort of long-term vision, that you differentiate with a user experience that is superior to what you would get from a bank. And slowly and surely, people will come to you because they get a better service and a fair price. That's also important. You don't want to gouge them with fees and such. Right now, from what I understand, if you have a student checking account at a Chase or Bank of America, there is a service fee of $12 or $14 a month. You cannot write checks.
Students already have nothing.
I know. And you cannot write checks. If you walk up to a teller, it's a $15. If you use ATM from other bank, you pay $3. So all sorts of fees that are being levied on a $300-400 balance in an account. So we want to change that. So our product does not have any annual fee.
And that's huge, especially like we were just saying, for this population, when you have to pay for every action you take, you already don't have a lot of money.
Right.
And it goes down to the way you guys are caring so deeply about the consumer. As someone who was just in college, I appreciate it and I recognize how important that is. I imagine, Kalpesh, with this first market of international students and the many more that you'll add in the future, there are a lot of organizations that want to partner with SelfScore. How are you approaching that?
Yeah, so our critical partnership right now is with the bank. In order to offer a product nationwide with a MasterCard logo on your credit card, you need to have a bank partner, which is a national bank or FDIC insured bank. So our first critical partnership is with our bank, Celtic Bank, in order to offer this product, right? Our other partnerships are with companies that cater to the same population. So think of it as carriers would be our natural partners like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, right? Other partners would be what do these students need? They need health insurance. So we are partnering with other health insurance companies that provide student health insurance. We can partner with companies like Apple that back to school promotions with smartphones, tablets, and laptops. We can partner with airlines. These students go back home for Christmas or summer, you know, to meet parents. They invite their folks over to come here. So think of it as like carriers, consumer electronics companies, airlines, health insurance companies, even companies that are in recruitment space would be natural partners because these kids would need a job after they graduate. So, and they are all highly educated people. So there's various ways to go to market with this.
It's a big and very exciting opportunity, and I would love to spend some time really talking about your journey building the company. What surprised you the most about the experience so far?
I think that what surprised me is how much we take it for granted as Americans, the education system we have, the higher education system we have in this country that attracts the best and the brightest from all over the world. So I call the universities of America are the Ellis Island, the new Ellis Island. So it used to be give me your poor, you're hungry, you're sick. It's now the new motto is give me your doctors, your engineers, your MBAs, right? So how much we take it for granted, that advantage that we have naturally in this country. So we all talk about how K through 12 education system is all broken. In America, we spend highest amount per student or per pupil, and we get 35 or 36 in quality of education. But we fail to understand and appreciate that all over the world, people come here after high school to study at the best universities in the world. So if you look at the top 100 universities in the world, overwhelmingly, 90% of them will be US universities. So that advantage that we have and we take it for granted, that's what surprised me. That you go to any UC, you know, or you go to any private Ivy League colleges, if you go to graduate programs or PhD programs, more than 50% of the class is from overseas. So it's like injecting new blood in the body every day. How imagine how healthy that body would be. Just this morning, I read a great op-ed by Colin Powell in the Wall Street Journal that talks about this very subject. That his parents came here from Jamaica, and they came here as a student. They worked here, you know, and they put him through college and the path to success. And it's amazing stories. And you hear he mentioned that about 80 million or you know quarter of the population is either first generation or kids of immigrants. So that
Wow.
system that we have, we take it for granted, and it carries natural advantages for America that makes it number one economy in the world. Other countries would kill to have the system we have.
What's been one of your favorite stories from a student who used SelfScore and is coming here to study?
Oh, there are many anecdotes I can talk about. One of our students, his wife was a doctor, and he wanted her to apply for the entrance exam, and he wanted to use a credit card to pay for her entrance exam. And we helped him with that, and his wife is now doing residency somewhere, right? So it changed someone's life. And one other student who wanted to bring his parents here to visit, use a credit card to buy tickets. That changed. You have people who come closer together as a result of what we're doing. We have a mission, and students really appreciate it, and especially when you are new to any country and someone gives you a helping hand, someone helps you with getting established, getting settled. You will never forget that. So there's so many stories that I can go on about.
I think that makes work very exciting.
Yeah, I get up every morning excited to come to work.
How is life different for you now, Kalpesh, as a founder, as it was when you were investing on Wall Street?
Yeah, I think there's a mission and a purpose as as you're building something, as opposed to you're sort of getting paid a lot of money, right? You're building a sustained value as a company. You're employing a lot of people. You're helping a lot of people as customers. Whereas on Wall Street, it's very sort of competitive, type A, money-driven culture, and it's different on so many levels because you're building an asset, you're creating value, you're providing value to customers, and the satisfaction that comes with that is quite different than sort of working for the year-end bonus and competing with your peers on who's going to get more money. So the money-driven culture versus purpose and mission-driven life is different for me.
How about on the decision side of things? Does your decision making process as an investor influence the way you make decisions as a founder?
Oh, sure, it does. So, portfolio management, risk taking, all those things. So you're allocating proper amount of dollars to a bet. So what I would call it is putting more wood behind each arrow as opposed to spreading your efforts thin. Those are the things that you learn as an investor that help you. And Warren Buffett says that every company founder or CEO should also learn investing because you're making bets on people, you're making bets on products, right? Just like you're making bets on companies in stock market. So it's slightly different, but those things that you learn, the strengths that you gather, or years and years of experience that come in handy because you're taking risks all day and you make bets, and some of them pay off and some of them don't.
How do you approach big risks?
You don't make bet the company risk. You sort of take calculated small bets, and if they're working, you increase those bets. So you do more of what's working.
I like that.
Yeah.
You also mentioned that that translates into your work hiring. And when I saw on the site, are you guys just a team of 11?
No, I right now, including summer interns, we have about 20 people in the office these days, and that's quite exciting. We have four more openings that we are hiring for, so we are growing really fast.
And I wanted to know 20 is still small for the huge problem that you guys are solving and tackling so well. What's your culture like?
I think the culture here is that you hire the people who buy into the vision, you empower them with proper resources, you inspire them, and you hold them accountable. So you hire the right people who actually have bought into the vision. Those are the people who succeed because they buy into the mission of the company and they're excited to serve this opportunity. You inspire them, you empower them, and you hold them accountable.
I really like how you mentioned when we were talking about the investments when connected it to hiring about you're making a bet on someone. So I'd love to touch on that one more time with the early hiring. I just had a conversation yesterday about making sure that your early hires are strong hires who can stay with you. So you're building a team at the start who's going to scale. How do you know when you're sitting down with someone, Kalpesh, that that's an individual who wants to stay with the company, who will be the right fit in the long term?
So I have a 4 point metric that I use. I use attitude, aptitude, energy, and integrity that I measure every person who walks in to interview. And then do they subscribe to the mission of the company? Are they excited about this problem? Do they want to really, really help solve this problem or address this market, right? So attitude is very important. We want people with positive attitude because as a startup, the world is betting against you. You don't want nervous Nelly or negative Nancy's walking around, uh, or Debbie Downers, I would call. So you want people who really, really believe that, the people who have drunk the Kool-Aid, if you will. So that's the first thing, the positive attitude. Aptitude is absolutely important. You want to hire people with the right skills to perform the right role. Because if there is a mismatch in that, you'll never succeed. Because you sort of hire the wrong person for the job, don't have experience or skills, they're going to fail. You're setting them up to fail. So it's unfair to them, it's unfair to the company. The third thing is energy. You have to be able to sustain long, grueling hours as a startup because you're competing. You have to be 10 times better than the big companies in order to beat them, right? You don't have so many resources, so you have to be very resourceful and think outside the box, if you will. So you sort of have the aptitude, attitude, energy, and integrity is very important. We are in a financial services business, if you will. People have to have the highest integrity, 100%, no compromise on that. So we look for people with that attitude, aptitude, energy, integrity, plus the subscribing to the mission of the company.
I love that, and I love that there's a framework. The framework always makes it so easy to remember.
Yeah. And early on, when you establish these values, they can scale with the company.
Yeah, and so important to establish it in the beginning. That's also a huge difference maker.
Yeah.
I'd love to touch on two more questions, Kalpesh, before we go on your experience. When you think back to your time building SelfScore so far, have there been any aha moments or critical turning points that have really influenced where you guys are today?
Yeah, I think the establishing product market fit, where we came to a realization, we started out with analytics and data as our sort of IP, and we went and marketed this to large banks and said, we can help you score these people who are unscorable using the current framework. And we got lukewarm reception. Some places we got better reception. Then we sort of said, okay, the risk departments are very risk averse in these banks. So let's go and talk to marketing departments and see if we can bring you new customers. You can pay us for a good lead, you know. And then we came to a realization that when you're selling data or analytics, you need to have millions in terms of scale, and you make 50 cents per pop or 25 cents, right? When you're selling marketing leads, you make maybe $50. But when you own the customer, you make multiples of that if you treat them well, right? That realization of humor was a big realization for the company.
A good one, too.
Yeah.
And
And it's more
last,
fun. It's more fun when you're directly dealing with customers.
and I think your customers, too, at least for this first market, have such incredible stories. Like you were saying, they make you so excited to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And to be able to follow their journeys will be incredible.
Yeah, I mean, just an anecdote, two of the three largest companies in the world now are run by fellows who came here as students from India, Microsoft and Google. That is huge, when you think about it that way.
It's huge, and I can't wait to follow as you guys really pioneer, like you were saying, the next generation of doctors and inventors. Last one for you, Kalpesh. When you think back to either your experience building SelfScore or just in general, you've had a really amazing career. What's one lesson that you've learned that you feel is really unique to your experience that you love to share with people?
I think being consistent. So, being consistent and disciplined, showing up on time. When you tell someone, I'll meet you at X time, you show up on time. Doing simple things, being positive, being consistent, uh, being rational, that goes a long way. You don't have to be a hero or a genius to succeed in business. You just have to do things repeatedly in a consistent way, in a smart way. And you'll be surprised how far you can go if you're consistent as an individual.
It's fantastic, and it's another framework that is going to stay in my head. So I can't wait to be able to share that with others. I'm so grateful that we got to have you on the show today, Kalpesh. What's the best way for everyone who's listening in to stay up to date with you, follow SelfScore, and those people who are students or have friends who would be a great fit? How can they learn more and get on the platform?
So, in addition to our website, selfscore.com, we have a blog which has a lot of educational content, lifestyle content for students. We also have Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Weibo and WeChat. So, all the social media platforms that people can follow us on. And we have these great interviews like you're doing that we'll be putting on the YouTube channel and other places that people can learn more about us and get involved with the company.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Sure.